First of all, I want to thank you for coming and being on the show. I know we've been trying to put this together kind of for a few years. Yeah. And, after the interview with Laura, and I will say I'm here with Jillian Lauren. She is a lot of things, but most recently the author of a book called Behold the Monster, where she talks about how many hours did you spend with Samuel?
Well, with him in person.
Yeah, like how many hours maybe do you think you spent with Samuel?
I mean, there was in person and on the phone.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
Over 100 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Samuel, if you don't know, Samuel Little was the most prolific serial killer of our modern time.
In American history.
Yeah.
I mean, the FBI statistics now, 63 cases cleared. Yes.
93
confessions, 63 cleared.
He only had like 8 convictions at the time that you walked into it? Or
3.
3.
Only 3, yeah.
And so Jillian took it on herself. You were motivated to help people come to terms, people who hadn't had closure. You knew something was wrong with this case and you wanted to find out more for people who were involved in Samuel.
I believe there were many more victims than the ones he had been convicted for. So, I wanted to bring a little heat to the story and hopefully find some justice for these forgotten victims.
I did find it interesting that you had a thing with Silence of the Lambs as a kid.
Yes.
But who would have ever known that would have brought you face to face with an actual serial killer?
I mean, the things that get in our bones, or maybe that we relate to for some reason to begin with. And like I said, I didn't really expect it to be all that similar to,
right.
I thought I'd go in there and, I had this beautiful movie, perfect
like
story,
you had a start,
Thomas
a middle, and an end.
Harris, yeah, and then I found that the dynamic was more similar than I.
The reason,
be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. The reason I started so slow is I honestly, after the interview, felt like it was a lot of effort and energy for you to put yourself into telling that story. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see. I could sense times where you would get into a story and then it would be difficult to pull out of it.
I've always been so on point in interviews. I've never had the experience before where I wasn't able to separate myself from the material I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, I can kind of still get lost in the moment that I heard the story. Well, I'm sort of always fighting that in a media situation because I'm trying to be, professional and speak as a journalist and, and the, amazing investigative and research work that I did, and exhaustive work, and still, I'll get lost in the past and just drawn into that kind of black hole that Sam Little was.
That he left.
That he was to be around.
Sure.
I mean, yeah.
Do you think you spent more time with him than anybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly for the few years that I was talking to him every day and getting content for the documentary and researching. I mean, one murder is hard to research.
Yeah.
93. I didn't know where to begin.
I mean, and historically, this started in the 70s and didn't end until the 2000s, right?
Yes.
2005.
2004
okay.
Was his last murder.
Wow. I mean, and that's a lot of time to go over with someone. And so you have to be invested in I mean, just to have a conversation with somebody, I got to be invested. But to go over that period with that type of impact, you have to show up and give part of yourself over to someone. And
absolutely. There's no faking it.
No.
I think that people think that I don't know, that there's some way to do it right, or there's some way to
to extract what you need, and
ethical or professional, or and I sort of got it from him any way I could, and I'm not an officer of the law.
You talked about singing him songs. You talked about bringing him food.
I brought him food. I made sure I wiped his mouth for him.
Right.
That old, snake monster. You know, I literally wiped the corners of his mouth. And because other people were watching. I mean, really, he didn't care that much. It just made him a celebrity. You know, he would say, oh, that's my girlfriend, or that's, you know, she's a famous writer. She's my journalist.
I was also really surprised by sort of the setting. You said that you interviewed him in. You said there were you were in a visitation room with other people.
I thought, you know, every single movie I've ever seen. Right. Aren't you behind glass?
I pictured him shackled to the table. And
yeah, you're behind glass with the phone. You put the hand on the glass thing. I was all ready for that. And I walked into a room with families sitting at, you know, these little plastic tables. All the chairs face forward. You know, and there's a guard and deputies around.
And you said like 19 cameras on you.
19 cameras is what the deputy did tell me. That crazy. Yes, I'm watching you through 19 cameras. I know what you're up to. And vending machines and AstroTurf and Legos for the kids.
That's crazy.
And you know, you get tokens and have your picture taken.
Wow.
With the inmate, you know, I have a couple with Sam. People have been very disturbed by them.
With photos?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You know,
okay.
Photo of me standing with Sam in the visiting room at prison.
Do you think you became friends with him? You guys became?
No.
No.
No. I mean,
not like on a.
No. No.
He didn't have any friends at the time. Like,
no.
I mean, he didn't. Yeah, he was.
I know he had fans. I mean, he had fans. Once he started to get publicity, you know, then he
find that crazy.
Then he had tons of friends, and he would do things. He just, I mean, he was funny, and he was a sadist. He would do things like give his fans my phone number.
Oh no!
Yeah, he gave other inmates my phone number.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I would get like calls in the middle of the night. You know, like, will you buy me a cell phone for $300? Like what? No. Next. What?
I mean, there's so many things we could talk about. It's absolutely, like, you guys have to read the book. I know that this is something that's a must if you love this kind of stuff.
I want to say something. You know, to say that he wasn't my friend, it doesn't mean that I don't miss him. You know, somebody asked me that the other day, and I was very surprised. Well, it wasn't somebody; it was my son. He said, "Do you miss him?" And I was like, "That's really no one has ever thought to ask me that, because it was, you know, everyone thinks it was nothing but horrors, and you know, it was a lot of horror, and also, I mean, it was so engrossing, and I had such a sense of meaning, like." Sam gave me a sense of meaning, you know, and like Laura, like you were saying, it wasn't, you know, because Sam gave me the sense of meaning. It was because he gave me access, you know, to these victims' lives. Like Sam was my eyes. Yeah,
there was. It sounds like there was a transactional thing where he brought you in, and then in order to keep you, he gave you information that helped you.
Correct.
That led to the discovery of all these other cases, and there were a couple of cases that you were actually directly. I mean, you uncovered information that helped other cases be closed. Correct?
Yeah, at least 5 directly, and you know, and I solved one
yourself,
bottom to top myself. Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that must feel very empowering and satisfying. In order,
it was so gratifying. I mean, and never myself, you know. I mean, of course, it was with a ton of help, and particularly that of Rick Jackson and Mitzi Roberts, who really were very patient with me as I did my work as a journalist. Wow. But it was, I mean, one of those moments in your life that where you're like, I can't believe it, I got it. I got this thing. I never expected to.
Yeah.
I just thought it was honorable to try.
I mean, the only thing
I really thought it was, you know, that it's honorable to try, and that when I got the call that said, "Are you sitting down?" You know, that case is indeed open. It's a cold case. Her name is Alice Janice Duval, and you have solved a murder, kiddo.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then did you get to meet the families of the people that you had worked with?
Yeah.
Do you still stay in touch with them?
Oh, very close with Alice's family. Alice's sister is, like they say, I'm family. They came out here. We all, they had a reunion, like, where they were able to put a headstone for Alice. We all went out for lunch. And it's, that has been like such a nurturing and wonderful relationship. And, and they really say, just keep going. Mm-hmm. Even, I've become so close with Alice's sister. I'll sometimes tell her the truth and say, I don't know that I have this in me forever. Yeah. And she's like, I think you do.
Yeah, I get so enchanted listening to you talk. I get sidetracked. I'll have something in mind, but that must be super rewarding, and
it is.
I'm sure you didn't see that coming when you started this journey either, huh?
I thought maybe I'd get a little interest. Just in this issue of, how we assign worth to people. Mm-hmm. Right, how people are treated differently, like in our healthcare system, in our law enforcement system.
You're speaking of like our perception of the killer.
I know. I thought I'd use the Sam Little story when I started, like just to bring attention to the issue. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't expect myself to wind up in a series of confessions that lasted for years. Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't come without a toll, as you've talked about.
Not at all.
You guys, please turn back to the interview with Lauren and check it out. So, I had the thought again that I was going to ask you, and I completely forgot it. You said during the interview that you actually took your kid to pick up Sam's ashes after he passed. And, I was curious, what did you do with him?
You'll have to wait and see.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
That's
to be determined.
That is to be revealed.
I got you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really great. Is there anything else?
Join my newsletter and keep following my work and you'll find out.
Okay. Yeah. You
what
guys
I did with the ashes, the art. He left me I have all of his possessions. Left me everything.
I remember what I wanted to ask you. So these guys, typically who are serial killers, and the duration of his killing was a long span of time.
30 years.
Yeah, it takes a lot of navigation and a lot of planning and figuring. So, and there are people who have speculated that they're geniuses and psychopaths in the same package. Was Sam a genius? Was he a brilliant person?
Well, it just depends. Like, what's a genius? I think most people don't know what they're talking about. Are you talking about his Sanford Binet score? Mm-hmm. Are you talking about his ability to sort of evade law enforcement, by wearing an invisibility cloak? Of being a petty thief,
blending in. Mm-hmm.
He just thought, they'd arrest him for stealing a steak at a Walmart, and they thought that's who he was. And then he'd get out and go and kill someone that night.
That's crazy.
And, and leave him beside the road like so much trash. And for the most part, he was right. People did not pursue the cases, or they were labeled as overdoses or, exposure. There was one case I remember in particular that was an overdose. It was labeled and she was found upside down naked in a pile of tires. And I was like, I don't know if I was going to go overdose. Right. Like that would not be exactly how I would do it. Sure. Like naked upside down in a pile of tires would not be,
right. So
my choice.
It just seems like such.
I'm just saying it's absurd. It's like they didn't want another homicide case that they didn't want another dog of a homicide case that they couldn't solve, and that puts your numbers off.
Has that changed?
Yes,
is law enforcement approaching things differently now?
I think you cannot make blanket generalizations, but I have seen a lot of real initiatives in law enforcement in law enforcement communities, and certainly with the VICAP and the SAKI initiative, SAKI, which runs old DNA evidence from rape kits. And, I definitely urge people to look into that. Also, the Doe Project and NamUs, these organizations that help people, hopefully identify missing and unidentified persons.
Wow. Well, it's a really, we're really glad that you came on the show and gave us an insight into this world. It seems like a really unique space, and you had an extremely unique experience with this whole thing. And thank you for bringing it out into the world. I think it helps us all understand a little more about who might be walking next to us, or, what's happening around us that we take for granted.
I hope so.
Yeah. You guys also, we have a special giveaway with all of Jillian's books. That'll be in all of our show notes. And what's next for you?
Well, there's a development deal for the book.
Okay.
And so that's, all kinds of Hollywood fun there.
Oh, good.
Bouncing around. And I am hunting and riding and, being a
mom and living with a rock star.
And rock starring and I am gonna get my dissertation. I'm gonna be Dr. Jillian Lauren. Yeah.
Get out. All right.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm doing my GRE. I got my GRE book all out.
There you go.
Yep.
You guys check out Jillian Lauren at JillianLauren.com.
JillianLauren.com.
Check out everything in our show notes, and thanks again.
Thank you.